Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. The software plugin that we'll be looking at today to pull off this film emulation look is none other than Dehancer. And full disclosure, I was provided this by Dehancer. However, they encouraged me to give my complete and honest feedback so that they could improve their product. I honestly love it when companies do this because it really shows their dedication to making their product better. And by using my code Andrew, you can save yourself 10% on your first purchase. I was actually really excited to check out this plugin. They do have some variants for photo editing, but specifically today, we will be looking at their video editing. Now, I personally edit in Final Cut Pro, but of course my thoughts will still apply to the other programs. To access the plugin, I'll go into my effects, go to film emulation, and click on Dehancer Pro. Here we have a bunch of different film stock presets that we can choose from. And as a film photographer myself, I'm gonna start with Kodak Portra 400, as that's something that I'm a little bit more familiar with, in photography at least. We can also make some temperature and tint adjustments here. And that alone has brought it to a much nicer place. You can see here that it's already lifting the shadows. Another feature that I really like is that you're able to turn down the entire effect with a slider, so you can control how intense you want this look to take over your footage. A very welcome addition to something that has this much customizability. So before I talk about one of my favorite features here, I need to explain something called halation. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what halation is, it's actually kind of a side effect that happens when you're filming on film. And what happens is the light will penetrate the film, bounce off of its base layer, and then back onto the film. And what that does is it causes this extra distortion around the highlights, which usually looks like this bright red or orange glow around the highlights in your image. And to combat this, movie film stocks typically have what's called an anti-halation layer, which is this extra dark layer on the bottom of the film which prevents the light bouncing back onto itself. However, in the more indie filmmaking world, this halation effect is actually desirable and is actually known to be kind of one of the staple signatures in distinguishing if something was shot on film. Here are some photos that I shot on Cinestill 800T, which is actually repackaged Kodak movie film in which they've removed that anti-halation layer, and we get these really intense halations in these photographs. Personally, to my taste, these are way too strong, so I don't usually find myself shooting on movie film very often for photographs, but I think it's a good benchmark to bring up here. And that's why I wanted to bring some attention and highlight to this halation feature that can be found in the plugin. And so where I'm very impressed here is how well the halation effect is able to be applied to my footage here. Because again, this wasn't shot on film, it was all filmed on my Canon R5, and I'm very impressed with how the plugin is able to identify the highlights, mask them out appropriately, and then add that halation effect to the appropriate and accurate areas that halation would actually occur. And here we can kind of toggle the mask on and off, and we can see how well it's identifying and singling out where the brightest parts of the image are and applying that halation effect in a way that doesn't look like it's slapped on, but kind of naturally baked onto the surface. Another thing I find interesting is because it's able to accurately mask out those highlights, we're also able to add a bloom effect to those highlights, which is also a desirable film look, a film look that usually is accomplished by putting on a mist filter to soften off the edges of your shot. And a pretty consistent trend you can notice in most footage that's attempting to look like film is it's kind of like this lo-fi, imperfect look, which of course film is. And so the irony is that we're actually taking this 4K footage and trying to tastefully ruin it for art. But I'd say for the most part that all of the effects are laid in pretty naturally. Again, my favorite and most impressive parts being that halation and bloom. I'd say the grain could be improved on a bit. It does seem a little too just too much. Currently, I'm liking everything that I've been using. However, I do have one large complaint, and it's not my hardware because I have a fully upgraded M1 Max MacBook Pro, but the playback is really choppy and really hard to get an accurate feeling of what it is that you're actually applying to your footage. I'm no technical expert. I'm not sure what's happening behind the scenes that may be causing this, but I'm hoping that that's something that can be addressed. Speedy and accurate playback is very important. So those are my thoughts on Dehancer. Thank you again to them for allowing me this opportunity to test it out. And as a reminder, if you're interested in picking it up for yourself, please use my code to save yourself 10% off your purchase. That's it for this video. Do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.